knowing Figma, Adobe, doing all those screens, this is just 30% of your job. AI will replace those designers who are not using AI. So now 0 to 1 is already happening.
Why is that?
Because other people can also see. I am at a shared space. I'm not at my home.
Oh,
So
okay.
2025 is going to be big for UX. Come to Dubai. This is a high time for designers, especially.
In this series, we're going to cover the misconception of designers and how you can be more effective as a UX designer, understand the organizational needs from the point of view of design managers and stakeholders. Mohammed Danish, welcome to In Perspective.
Thank you, Shanika. It's nice to be here.
So, one thing I really wanted to ask you is that what are the problems that designers usually have to talk about expectations in an organization level? How can they do things differently that will meet your expectations as a design manager?
The way I would answer this is personally, I think designers, we are very creative people, right? And we know what we are doing it. And most of the designers, especially in Dubai region, they are very good. They're coming from a very solid background, right? But one thing which I feel is that at some point we stop being like, or we like start thinking only about ourselves. Maybe like this is just like my case study, that is how I'm going to put it. So I want to do it this way, I want to do it that way, right? But practically we are like independently we are nothing, right? We are sitting with business, we are sitting with tech team, we are sitting with data team, we have so many other departments, right? So that is something which I feel like we have to be more collaborative. You as an individual designer, sure, you can definitely draw out the best mock-up ever, right? But in the end, to make it like how we are going to send it to market and like customers are going to see it, right? So you have to do a lot of stuff, and at some point it's completely okay to compromise on some of the things. So have that flexibility, I would say, is like, first of all, like designers, they should have a passion. They should have a passion that, okay, yes, I am doing it and I'm going to change this thing, right? I'm going to improve the customer experience. I'm going to change the landscape of this entire product. I'm going to change how people are perceiving us as a product, right? That is one thing, right? But at the same time, you have to be adaptive. You have to understand what is the business goals, right? You cannot just always talk about user goals. You're working with a lot of departments. You're working with a team. You're working with, like, you have to look into. You have to start looking into the bigger picture. This just don't focus on the one small thing that, okay, now this journey is not up to the par, we haven't done any customer research, there's no data, I have to assume a lot of things, I have to validate a lot of stuff, right? And it's understandable, but at the same time, you can be adaptive. You can be adaptive. You can start educating your stakeholders, bring awareness to them.
When it comes about a stakeholder management, how can they get better at stakeholder management and understand the business requirement in the first place?
I think listening, first of all, listening. We designers, um, because I think I struggled this a lot in my career as well. That we tend to feel that, okay, we are the one who are going to change everything, and we are responsible for the better customer experience, right? But like, again, there are broader teams who own this product as well, right? It is their responsibility as well, right? And you alone cannot make the difference. You have to uh, talk to your stakeholders. You have to have a regular conversation, try to understand what is their perspective, maybe what solution you're proposing, it is good for a full-fledged release, but right now the product is looking for a stopgap solution, right? So try to understand if they are challenging it, if your stakeholders are not getting what you are saying. Try to understand their perspective as well. You may get to see that, right? And also build trust. I personally think that when you start listening to your stakeholders, your other departments, other teams, you build that relationship where maybe in the first 2-3 projects they may not give you the full control, but like by third or fourth project, they start trusting you after seeing the results, after seeing your proposals, right? You have to earn your chair on the table, in simple words.
How can we differentiate between design management and product management?
I think they're very different. Product management, if you see, they practically own the product, they own the roadmap of it, right? What they want, they are probably working directly with business, they're working with like strategy teams, they're working with insights team. So they are, for them, like designers are one of the teams they have to work with, right? But for design managers it's slightly different, right? Because at some point us designers, um, like designers itself, like when you're working with designers, you need some sort of guidance. Like a product manager will never tell a designer what to do when they are in a creative block.
That's
or
great.
how to upskill themselves, right? A product manager will always say, okay, this is my problem, solve it
Mm,
for
mm,
me,
mm,
right?
mm,
But
mm.
a design manager on the other side, they are more like people manager. They are
Right.
there to help you in your career,
Mm,
in upskilling yourself,
mm.
how or identifying in which areas you're struggling. Maybe you are amazing in UX, but you lack in UI design, right? But there is a need
Yeah.
for a better visual design, so maybe a design manager can help him. You won't see a lot of design managers, and I've worked in an
Yeah,
organization where product managers
even in
own.
my project there is no design manager.
Yeah, but design manager is a luxury to have. If you have
Yes.
it, it's an amazing thing, because then they can take care of it. And I think that is where I find it, like corporates, big enterprises, they have
Mm-mm.
that structure versus a startup where a designer is directly working with the CEO. But a CEO, what a CEO or a VP of product, they will be
Yes.
asking it, okay, I need landing page.
Yeah.
Give me landing page. Next day he will be asking, okay, give me this like UX
Mm.
flow, right? But they don't think that, okay, whether this designer he wants to work on these projects or not, right?
Mm-mm-mm.
So a design manager, my role individual,
Yes.
like my role is just to find the best type of projects for best type of individuals.
Mm-mm.
If one of my designer wants to excel in UX, right,
Yeah.
I will try to find challenges or problems or projects for him where he can practice his UX.
Mm.
I can tell you from my past experiences, I know some of my designers,
Yeah.
they are very shy with presentation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And or public speaking. So I used to like, calm them down, let's talk about it, what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I started with like smaller sessions, like you facilitate the entire
Yeah.
session, and then that is how they started building this habit of speaking in front of other people in presentation of their work, right?
They also feel
So
like they're heard in the
yes, yes, yes,
organization
yes,
through you.
exactly,
But
yeah.
since you said that it's a luxury to have, that's very true. But then the organization that are lacking design managers, they only have product managers or POs, product owners. So they are not going to have that advocacy. So
Yeah,
how can they understand business requirements better?
I think for sure, design manager helps you a lot getting a
Mm.
context, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't have that context, then you have to find people who can give you that context of
Mm-mm.
what's happening in the bigger picture, right? Because as I said, like you as a designer, you are looking at just one small problem.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is one screen, this is one flow I have to work on, right? But uh, design
yeah.
managers,
Mm.
VP design, head of design, they can help you get a better context. Okay, what's
Right.
happening in the organization? What is the roadmap, right?
Mm.
If you don't have it, you
Yeah.
don't have that luxury, right? Then I personally, because I've worked in startups as well, I would say I will try to work closer to product team,
Yes.
business team. I will
Mm-hmm.
spend more time try to understand what's happening, right? And if you really want to um, grow in that company, because it's also like
Mm.
depends on your career right now
Yeah.
at your
My
career.
goal in
Yeah,
that
what is your goal,
company.
right? You want to stay in a startup
Yes.
where you want to later become a head of design or a
Mm.
VP of design. It's a very good inspiring goal, right? So it totally depends. If you want to have that kind of a relationship, then start investing yourself, investing your
Yes.
time into learning the problem, learning the problems which they are trying to solve, which is not even in the roadmap right now.
Right.
The more you get to there,
Mm.
right, that is where you start learning about it. I tell it to everyone in my design team, guys, knowing Figma, Adobe, doing all those screens, this is just 30% of your job.
Yeah.
70% of your job
That's
is
like
actually,
tools, learning
yes, yeah,
tools.
30% is just tools, like you
Yeah.
know that, right?
Yes, yes.
70% is like actually managing perception,
Mm.
managing risk, managing capacity,
Yes.
managing how people are perceiving you,
Yeah. How do we,
managing.
this is very interesting. How do we make sure that people are perceiving us the way we want to be perceived?
I think it's more like it's a communication thing, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
if you have to get like a regular feedback, you collaborate a lot, right?
Mm-mm.
If I'm collaborating, I'm working with other
Yeah.
teams, right? So then now I've built that rapport, I've built that
Mm.
reputation with them, right? Now it's more like taking, like, maybe if quarterly feedback is maybe too late, maybe go for a
Mm-hmm.
monthly project, like
Yeah.
monthly feedback. I always go talk to my stakeholders. I ask them, how am I doing? Is there anything you feel like I'm
Mm-mm-mm.
not doing well, right? That automatically gives them the
Yeah.
feel that, okay, yes, he wants to change something, but he
Yes.
also wants to change something within him as well, right? He's
Mm.
looking for feedback.
Yes.
So that automatically lowers their defenses, and then they start opening up with
Mm.
like their suggestions. Okay, you know what, in one of the meeting we had it and you
Yes.
sounded a bit like rude, maybe we
Mm.
can work on that, right? So I think communication and regular feedbacks and like being closer to your like other like counterparts,
Peers.
yeah, peers, right? other
Yeah.
counterparts, because the more you talk to them, the more you can, like, get to know about
Yeah.
what's happening. And it's the same thing for them as well. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are, when you're working with the teams, you're also judging them as well,
Yes.
right? You may not say it,
Yes.
but because you can, there are, like, in every organization there are like 200, 300, 400 engineers, and you are only just 4 or 5 designers, right?
Yeah.
So then 4 or 5 designers, they may not have that kind of a voice,
Yeah.
what versus a engineering manager who has a different voice, right? So then you try to analyze in which organization, in which setup you are. A startup may have a different setup versus a tech company where there are 3,000 engineers,
Yeah.
4,000
Also,
engineers.
the ratio of designer and engineers are always this case. Like designers are always less and engineers
Yes,
are. Why is
yes,
that?
yes. I think we are coming from a. I think now it's getting better.
Yeah.
If you see, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was, design was considered as a
Yeah.
luxury. That
Yeah.
if you like very designed product, I'm not talking about digital products. I'm talking about even physical products. Like,
Yeah.
design has been always considered as a luxury, right? But like after big companies like Apple, like
Yeah.
Spotify, Microsoft, when they started practicing this thing, and we started seeing the result, now people, like companies, business owners, they are more comfortable. They are more comfortable, so they are investing more into designers, and now design is becoming the place where the project, actually the actual kickoff happens with when the designer joins in,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, right? But in the end, I think we are closer to delivery, but we are not very much close to delivery, because if you see in the entire product development life cycle, you are still at the discovery phase of the actual project.
Yeah.
Then you are doing a lot of exploration, you're coming up
Right.
with the solutions, sitting with the engineers, right? But in the end, the actual launch, deployment, QA, all of that, that is something which is like, engineer is doing it, right? Like, now these new
They
technologies.
think it's extra, like it's not a necessity.
Yeah, yeah,
Design
yeah.
is extra.
It was, now it is not the case, especially in Dubai. Now I think you will notice, earlier it was a slightly negative as well, that everything has to have a, like, bells and whistles, glitters, shine. Even like now Dubai is
In
actually
Dubai.
recovering, it's detoxing itself, because they were over designing things.
Okay.
They were over designing things visually, they were trying to
Can you
do
give
a
an
lot of stuff.
example of this over design
Over
stuff?
designing, I think you will see that visually they were putting a lot of energy into visuals. They were putting a lot of energy
It
energy
looked
If you see
luxurious.
their websites, if you see their old, like, interfaces,
Right.
everything is like now they have a design philosophy. Now they are trying to go for minimal, they're going for simplistic, intuitive interfaces. But earlier, I have seen some old websites, and how they were doing it is like, just because they can put a gradient into a button, they will
Yes.
do it. They will
Okay.
do it, right? They won't
Yeah.
think that, okay, whether it's accessible, is it easier to build,
Yeah.
what's how it's going to affect us, right? Versus now it is getting there, where like now people are taking their time, they want to have a creative or innovative solution, but not at the cost of functionality. So,
Okay.
which is, I think, now we are getting back there, we are detoxifying ourselves, we are like now also looking into the functionality as well. So I think, yeah, that is something which is getting better.
Yeah. Also, what is the scope of UX in Dubai? Because we are talking about UX in Dubai, do we have a lot of scope? Somebody from a different country, should they move here?
I think definitely, especially
Yes.
now after COVID, things have changed a lot. Uh, Things have changed a lot, and as I said earlier, like they were very much UI focused, very visual focused, right? You
Right.
can also see, like if you actually do the insights, like there were like not a lot of product designers before 2001, 2021, 2022, right? Most of them
But
were
not specific to Dubai in general. You.
in general, right? But
Yeah.
like even in Dubai, they were heavily, like they were a lot of graphic designers.
Yeah.
They were putting a lot of energy in making things beautiful, not functional, right? Whereas like now, if you see, like a lot of product designers are coming in because the need is there. Also, I feel it that they have every industry or every country has this phases, right? They have gone through that phase where they are building products. Now they
Yeah.
have done it. So now 0 to 1 is already happened. Now they're getting to a place where they're optimizing the
Yeah.
journeys, they are optimizing, they are improving the experiences, right? They already have, they got they acquired the customers
Yeah.
interest. Now the only thing which they are doing right now is that, like, promoting and like improving the experience, right? Like I
Right.
can give example of like what Talabat is doing, what Kareem is doing, right? So
Yeah,
now
I
they are
just
not
used
struggling.
Talabat today only. Like I ordered food,
Yes.
and I think now I can say that it's similar to the experience I had in Bangalore.
Yes, yes, yes,
Food
yes. So
ordering
now it is, yeah,
applications.
definitely, because even from my from my perspective, when I actually recently, like, I moved like back in like it's been 4 years, 5 years. I moved here, and that time I was also very nervous because the maturity was quite low.
Yeah.
And also for the new designers, this is always a cultural shock to them that like, okay, they feel like okay, now we are still doing it. There's no like we are cutting so many corners, we are skipping so many steps right now. But I feel like okay, now still we are doing better.
Yeah.
I can give you examples, especially at Emirates and Midi, we have this focus of like everything has to be customer experience led. So like there's a lot of conversations are happening with
Right.
customers. We are doing like quick validation with customers. So now I can see it, which was not there
Yeah.
2 years ago, 3 years ago. It
UX
was
is
not there.
fairly new still, because if I say this to anybody that I'm a UX designer, leave about that word UX, the first thing that comes in their mind that you're a fashion designer. The fashion comes in their mind, okay?
Right,
Because that's
right,
the only word I think they're familiar with.
right, right,
Even
right.
graphics, I can say if you open LinkedIn, maybe everyone is aware of graphic design and UX
Yes,
design, but outside in my mom's generation or
yes,
our
yes, 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 yes.
parents' generation, they don't get it. They only know it's fashion design.
Exactly, exactly. I think time has changed, and like with times, there are so many industries opened up, especially UX designer. I
Yeah.
like if I tell you like where I'm coming from, I started as a web designer or graphic
Yeah.
designer
Yeah.
because that is the only term we had it in
Yeah. That's what
2010,
we had. Yeah.
2011. That was the only term, right?
Yes.
But I can tell you in 2010, 9, sorry, I had a course called HCI, Human Computer Interaction, and that changed my perspective a lot. Why? Because I think it's just you're right that it's because of like lack of awareness out there,
Yes.
and
It still
now
is,
it
though.
is still there out there,
Yeah.
and that is our job as designer. That is our job to make sure that we bring awareness to the like to the teams we are working with, to the people we are working with, to continuously advocate about the best design experiences or best like practices out there, right?
Right.
So that is our job, and which is something which is if you ask me today that Danish, like if like a designer from Amsterdam should like move here, I would say yes. It's the
Yes.
best time, I think, because we are still in the early phase where you can make a career out of it right now, because
So this
the
is the
market is not
golden
as
time.
saturated as London, as SF, as like Amsterdam, as Germany. So its market is still very new. I think if
Right.
you work on the right products, you like actually listen to users, try to understand what they're trying to do, you get to see that
Yeah.
you can solve a lot of problems.
So I can say maybe 2025 is the golden time, or from this point onwards is the golden time for
I
somebody
think
to.
we are already in this.
We're already
We
in
are
this.
already in this. 2025
Yes.
is going to be big for UX. A lot
Yeah.
of projects are
In
happening,
Dubai specifically.
specifically in Dubai.
Yes.
I think a lot of new startups are happening. So yes, 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 for sure. I think still the best time to join the
They can come
market.
and like be at the top of their game if they can.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Because if you're coming from a very well mature industry and you already know the best
Yeah.
practices, and if you come over here, you can bring those practices, and then you
Right.
can become the pioneer. Because this is exactly what happened with me,
Right.
right? Because we have in Pakistan, we have a lot of ODCs, like offshore
What
development centers,
what is
right?
ODC?
Offshore development centers,
Okay.
right? Where like a lot of companies in US, a lot of companies like UK, they have their development centers in Pakistan, and especially in Islamabad, Lahore, and that is how that is why I think like it's the same thing with India as well. Like there's a lot of maturity already over there because we have been working for those MNCs on we're working on those standards of like US and UK, right?
Yeah.
Because there are already products like Uber, there are products like Spotify, Airbnb, right? And then you get that maturity. Again, I think in consultancy it happens where design consultants, they come upfront, they start the project, they kick off, they come up with all the concepts,
Right.
and then they deliver everything and they give it to the development team. Okay, now you build it, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually work with a actual product team,
Yeah.
you have a concept of like having small squads, right? And we were responsible for one, like our squad was responsible for one
So
feature.
scored is like a group of people.
Squad is a group of people where like you have maybe one designer or two designers, one content writer, one data scientist, three
Okay.
four
Okay. Okay.
front
Like
end
that.
engineers, back end engineers together, right? And then you are working or you're solving one problem.
For
Sure.
different products, there would be different
It can
scores.
be even a small feature. I met a design manager, and she was back in 2018. She was just doing within the Chrome browser. She was just taking care of that search bar.
That's just
That
one
was
feature.
a one squad, and
Okay.
she has been optimizing it for like more than 2 years.
2 years
2 years, right?
for a search bar.
Yeah, and like but like that is how it happens in Google, in Facebook, Meta. Like that is how they do it. Like it's this, there's one dedicated squad which is just managing notifications. There's one dedicated squad which is just managing the feed of what you have, or maybe a small piece of that is which is like how you report
They
a post.
continue with that, is it?
Yes, they continue, and that is how you see it. Like they are optimizing the journeys. They have this
It's not
concept.
possible in startups, right?
Yeah,
It's lost of.
of course, of course. I think this is why startups give you a good chance to grow in a like more generalization, that you
To
are
become a
learning everything.
UX generalist.
Yes, yeah,
Then
you're learning
specialist.
everything, right? You're every part. Okay, I know a bit about like feature one, a bit about feature two, feature three, feature four. When you actually work in a product led company, then you can, or engineering led company, then you are working in the squad, and that squad is very vertical oriented, right? You only know your vertical, what's happening
Yeah.
in that, and then you specialize in it, which is very good, because then if I can give you an example, if as a designer you have worked for
Yeah.
Emirates NBD, or like
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
imagine Talabat.
Yes, yes.
Talabat, right? Talabat, if you are the checkout experience lead, where every checkout experience you have
Right.
designed it, right? Then this entire checkout experience, later on you can go to any, like, Food Panda or like Zomato, you go back home, and then you can implement the same thing over there, because now you have the knowledge, because you are
Yes.
domain expert of that,
Yes.
right?
For people who don't know what is Talabat, it's like a food ordering app like
Yes.
Zomato and Swiggy. Because we are in Dubai, so I am aware of it now. I
Right,
didn't even
right,
know
right.
this like before coming to Dubai. So
Yeah, yeah. So it's amazing. It's our go-to app. But like you will see that at some point, like what Talabat is doing versus what like Hunger Station or Noon or
yeah.
Kareem, they have these common things.
Yes,
They
yes.
have these common experiences, right? And then as a designer, it opens more doors for you
Yeah.
as an opportunity. So if I tell you, I only focus on corporate banking,
How is
UX.
it so different than general UX?
I think there is no margin for you to make mistake, because now
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's financial, and there's a lot of disclaimers. A lot of
Why is that? I
disclaimers,
think
right?
it should be opposite, isn't it? Like, how can I have this so much of flexibility too?
Yeah, I think it's more like, because when you order a food, right, or when you I
Right.
don't know, when you buy something online on an e-commerce platform, right? Like you wanna buy a shirt at
Yeah.
Zara, right? The worst is can happen is like, okay, you got a wrong size shirt,
Yes.
and you have an option that you can return it back,
Yeah.
right? But when it comes to corporate banking, and you are making a transaction, you are making like 20 transactions a day, and each transaction is like 200,000 dirhams, 300,000 dirham, right? And now you cannot, like, there's no margin for you to make a
Yeah.
mistake. Then also it is our responsibility as designers to, we have to show them the right information.
Yeah.
When should they expect this money to be gone out, right? There can be downtimes, there can be errors, there can be disclaimers that, if
Yeah.
okay, if you're sending a payment in a non-sanctioned area or country, there are consequences.
The
So
room for making mistakes is very
it's
less.
very less, because
Fairly, there
now,
is no room
yeah, there's
for
no
it.
room, right? That is why we have to evaluate. There are so many stakeholders for us. There's, and not a lot of people know. I think it's mostly finance UX people. They
Yeah.
understand that whatever their designs they do, after that they also have to do a one round of revision with these security teams as well.
Okay. So
One round
is it
of,
happening before A/B testing or before the launch?
no, yeah, it is like while we are developing it, right?
Oh,
As I said,
okay.
it's the same concept, which is the squad thing, right? That you, in one squad, you are like, as I said, probably you're just working on the mobile dashboard, right? So then within that, while you're adding a new feature, while like within your squad, you have to review it with the security team as
Okay.
well, and you have one representative from the security team or solution architect, and then you go to them, you say, okay, I'm doing something like that. I can give you one example. We are working on the one web application, and
Yeah.
this is, in that we are showing the balance of your total balance
Yes.
across all the accounts, right?
Yeah.
And security can ask you this thing, that you know what, I may not be at my home station, I'm not at my workstation, or if I'm at my workstation and you give a font size which is like 50 pixel,
Okay.
because you want to show big account balance,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is a security concern,
Why is that?
because other people can also see, I am at a shared space, I'm not at my home.
Oh,
So other
okay.
people can also see that this organization where
Yeah.
they're working, what is the total balance across
So
all the other accounts,
are you
right?
making it small because of
Yes,
that?
yes, yes. So then these are the kind of challenges you get it
Oh, these
when
are
you're
the
working.
design
Yes,
decisions you're
yes, yes,
making.
yes. So then you cannot say that, okay, you know what, Zara is using this font in this big size, or Talabat is doing these
Yes.
bold like visuals.
Yeah, we can't do
We
that.
can like you if you want to do it, you have to have a rationale. Then on top of that, you have to counter these arguments with these numbers, right? So and that is why I tell it to my designers, guys, we are not working all alone. This is not our product, this is business product. You have to be adaptive, you have to understand what is their rationale. If they are challenging you, they are giving you rationale, and then
Yes.
you cannot be mad about it. You can counter, but
Yes.
come up with your argument, right?
Yeah.
Have your own
I
point of
have
view or
logic
perspectives.
in what you're saying. How?
Exactly, exactly. And like that is where most of my energy goes into, like, guiding the designers to come up with their own perspective. Like
What does that mean of coming with your own perspective?
when I give you a brief, let's imagine I give you a
Yeah,
brief
yeah,
and
yeah.
I say, okay, Shanika, give me two mockups for this thing, or two journeys for how I can check out a physical checkout. How can I
Yeah.
do it, right? And you can tell me, you know what? I think one way of doing it, I can first like buy a product, and I can go to the counter and do a checkout. Second version can be like I don't go to a physical product. I see a digital catalog and I book it directly from the kiosk
Yeah, two
and it comes
examples.
to me, right? And there are multiple approaches, right?
Yeah.
But as an individual, you as an individual, not as a designer, as an individual,
As an
there
individual.
has to be a perspective,
Yeah, why?
what you believe in,
Yes.
right? And that is something
And why
which
do I even believe in
that
that?
is something which new or aspiring designers, they miss it. They don't have a perspective of what they think is the right thing, and that is why I have this exercise, and I tell it to all of my designers.
Yeah.
Whenever you're proposing something and you feel like you have multiple approaches, approach A, approach B, approach C, always go for what are the pros, what are the cons. That will help you coming up with your own rationale. Why business or product cancel anything in design is whether it's time to market,
Yeah.
whether it's costly, or whether it's something which is not aligned with their long-term goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or business goals. So then us designers, we have to build our rationale based on those points, which is more important to them.
Now, this is like an explanation of something that I've experienced. So, I'm a senior designer, but I've taken like first round of interview, and the second round was with the design manager. So, the candidate I interviewed, I think he was really good at designing. Then I checked it yes, and then he went to the next round of interview, and he got rejected. And I'll tell you why. And I was in the meeting. So, the design manager asked like, if I ask you to change this, or the product manager asks you to change this, will you change this? And he said yes. I was like, just because he said asked you to change it, will you change it? It's like, yeah. And then you don't have anything to say in return. Like, why are we even hiring you? Like, so that you bring some value in the table. Like, we
Yes,
don't want you to
yes.
do everything that we are asking you to do.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. This is why I think this is why designers are very important nowadays, because we are the only one. Again, it's a big statement, but I think we are the only one who are willing, or we explore a lot of things. We
Yeah.
are, because we are creative people. Every one of us, like everywhere there's a new website or new app, we try to explore it. We
Yeah.
try to see what is their experience, right? We learn new things, and we try to bring parallels to our problems, and we try to solve it the same way how or what
Yeah.
we have seen it, right? So that brings a lot of new flavors, new things, right? So, and that is something which is good. That is something which is good. And if the designer, the sole purpose of him is like being creative and add new things, bring
Yeah.
innovation,
Yeah.
if they are not doing it, and they
Then
don't have a
what is the point?
perspective, they don't have a rationale for that, then I don't know what's the value of a designer, right? Uh, then you can actually ask any UI engineer. You don't
Yeah.
even need a designer.
Yes,
You can
yes.
actually ask a UI engineer, give them one built design system, and product team can go directly to UI
Yes.
engineer and
That's
can you
true.
build it for me, right? So which is now it's going to happen very soon. It's going to happen very soon if designers,
Don't add value.
if we don't add value, because now design systems are becoming very easier. It's very easy to
Easy as in?
easy as in like now it is like accessible, right? Back in the days there was not enough design tool. Figma has made it very easier for us to manage our design system, and
Yeah.
very scalable design system. And like
Yes.
now, like you can put a prompt, I need a screen, use this design system, and that is what Figma is doing right now.
Yeah.
Figma AI has this
And what's
feature
the
where it
point?
understands your design system, and it can help you create different type of screens using that design system, right? So then, but if we are not doing our job, if we're not bringing any value, if we're not
Yeah.
coming up with our rationale, then that is going to happen, and that is why I feel like we are very safe, because I feel like us designers, we have that big bit of a creativity. Also, like we have
Logical.
like a very like we have our own logics as well, and that is why I feel like AI is not gonna overcome us. Like I think they're not gonna overtake us.
Yeah, because
We
there are a
have our
lot of content on this that AI gonna replace UX
no,
design.
no,
It's
no.
never gonna happen, right?
I think if you ask me this question, I wrote this article in Medium, and also I explored some of the options
Yeah.
of how AI can help us, right? But like now, I think in 2025, I don't see that AI is going to replace us, but AI will replace those designers who are not using AI, right? Why I'm saying it is that there's so many tools out there which can make your life easier as a designer.
Can you give us some
Like I think
examples?
Tom app is one. I use ChatGPT all the time. I
Yeah.
use Claude all the time for data, right? So if I like, if for example I want to create a dashboard, right?
Yeah.
How or what I really do is, sometimes is it's a quick hack I do is, I ask my data team, give me all the data, and I take that data, go put it into ChatGPT, and say I'll ask ChatGPT, give me a dashboard out of it. Or I
Okay.
can also do the same thing. I would take the entire data, give it to Claude, and say, okay, can you analyze this data for me? So practically, I am also doing a work with a data analyst or a product manager would do it for
Yes,
me. But
yes.
like now, I have access to these tools. I understand better, and then I build my rationale on that. Like, okay, in the dashboard, if I want to show a balance upfront, what is the rationale?
Yeah,
Right,
that's right.
how many people have access to that information, then or what is the most important thing for them, right? So I have those behaviors already, and then I give it to Claude, I give it to ChatGPT, and I ask questions, and they are building that memory within it, that okay, this is the product he's working on,
Yeah.
and then they suggest me things. So it's very good for your explorations. It's very good for your like brainstorming sessions. You can ask question, you get a response right
Yeah.
away, you can have a
We can
conversation.
actually optimize it, but then it can not replace us.
Definitely, it definitely it's not. Also, in order to deal with Chat GPT or all of these AI tools, you need to learn how to write the prompts,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
And I'm telling you, our stakeholders, sorry, respectfully, they don't even know how to give clear requirements to us,
Yeah.
right? So how they gonna give requirements to AI,
That's very true
right?
because we have confusion. I always had confusion what exactly you want because the language is different, right? That's
Yes,
business language, then product language, and then design language is something
yes,
different.
yes, yes, yes,
Tell
yes.
me what I need to do. I understood
Exactly,
what you're trying
exactly.
to do in the business. That has nothing to do with what I. How
100%.
do I translate? How can they translate the business language to design language and then do the actual work that's going to meet the expectations?
Yeah, I think that is where your senior designers, or that is what define who's a senior designer, by the
Yeah,
way.
that's right.
That is personally, I think, is like, or my role right
Especially
now.
when there is no design manager.
When there's no design
Yes,
manager,
yes.
that is how you can define, okay, who is a junior designer, who is a senior designer, who can understand business better,
Yes.
or IT or tech better. Because in the end, if you know what they are saying, you're able to understand,
Yeah.
then you can come up with a better response, and that will give you better opportunity, and then you become more likable person for them to work
Yeah.
with, because now you understand their language,
Yeah.
right?
It's easy.
It's easier for them to explain it to you, and then you become that point of contact, and then you become that bottleneck, that okay, you know what, I want to talk to Shanika, she understand
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and she will explain it to you
Yes,
guys,
yes.
right? So that is how it happens. And that is the role of a senior designer. I personally think that, again, after a
Design
certain
manager.
time, like you are just 20%, 30% designing, and that is the only skill set you have. After that, you have a soft skills, interpreting what your stakeholders, what customers are saying.
Yes, yes.
When you do customer interviews, they never say that I don't like orange button. They will
Yeah.
never say that. You have to interpret it. You have to ask the question in a different way. What they are saying versus what they are feeling are two
Yeah.
different things, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Absolutely
a
different.
senior designer is only a senior designer who can understand it, right? And
Yeah.
the only way you can become senior is like you challenge yourself, you communicate more,
Right.
you expose yourself to these situations, right?
I
And
think the
that is
most
how you learn.
difficult challenges that at least I faced, or I think all of the UX designers face, is that when we are having the qualitative interviews with the users, we're talking to them, they never know what they want. Like, so we are trying to break the ice and we are first we are making them comfortable and asking them questions, they actually, some of them take it very seriously, as if like it's an interview and I have to say everything right. No, you have to be you. You have to
Yes.
be normal so
Yes.
that we get the data that we want.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when they are not cooperating with us, like unknowingly, then it's really difficult. Like we don't even know what they want, even after talking to them. How can we deal with this?
I think it all depends on like how you're actually getting the information out. It.
Yeah.
One way of like how we do it is we have these like very not so formal service. We do a lot of service. We call it voice of customer service. Like we give them okay how easy it is for you to make a certain transaction. That is one. Uh, that is
Do you
one way
like
of.
monitor them, like while being like
So
monitoring them
in
virtually?
Dubai, not here, not at Emirates NBD, but earlier we had these technologies at Do. I used to work at Do before this, so we had this technology where we can actually sense their emotions, what exactly they are feeling right now. Right?
Okay.
Are they when we show them a new interface? Are they happy about it?
How do you track that? Like, do
So
you
you
have
have
any
those like
machine and
yeah,
stuff?
electrodes. They put those electrodes on your
Oh,
body,
that's so
and
interesting.
then you can sense it, right? You can, and then you're also, so eye tracking is happening. Then your emotions are also being captured right now. How are you feeling? Are you
I feel like
overwhelmed
it's like a
right now?
lie detector or something. Like if
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you say
I mean, like
something that you
you
don't
can
feel
call
it.
it, but like now these you have these technologies by which you can actually see if your user who is using this interface, is he happy about it or not, right?
Yeah.
Is he overwhelmed, right? If
Yeah.
I take you and I will ask you to sit in a cockpit, and you seeing all of these 100 plus buttons, you are definitely going to be overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
That is a human, like we,
Yes,
when we
yes.
see a lot of options we get overwhelmed, right? But like there has to be a
I
way
think
of
there's it's
evaluating it.
Hicks law, is it?
Yes,
Hicks
yes,
law.
yes. When you
Yeah.
see more than five options, six
Yeah.
options, you take more time to make a decision, and you end up confused,
Yeah.
right? So it's a lot of cognitive load for you, right? So then, so, yeah, but like these, so now you have these tools,
Yeah.
but like these are not everyday tools, which is again a problem right now. These are still very expensive equipment, very specialized research, because for that you have to have a very
Oh,
wide
only
room.
few
There cannot
organizations
be,
can afford it. I've
yeah,
never heard about it like
no, no,
for the
like
first time.
those are very separate rooms. When these research are happening, it's actually like a proper white room, because then we don't want any type of emotion. We don't want other people to come into the room, because that is also going to impact them or make them more nervous.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
imagine if you're doing a test right
Yes,
now, I
yes.
give you a mobile
Right.
app, and you're doing something, and then you see three or four people taking notes,
Yeah. And
you're
then
getting more nervous, right?
yes, yeah.
Right, so that is why it is kept in a very isolated place where you can do it, right? But it's very highly expensive.
Yeah.
But we have done it in the past. I think it's very good. Yeah, heat maps is one way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Heat
yeah,
maps is
heat
one
maps.
way.
I was using Hotjar. Is
Hotjar
there
is also very good.
any other tool that you
I think
recommend?
Crazy Egg is doing the same thing. Heat map.
Yeah, that's new. I haven't used it, but is it
Crazy
good?
Egg has been there out in the market. Then there are a lot of landing pages like for A/B testing as well. You can also do it that way as well. Like Maze
Yeah.
is there, Useberry is
Yeah,
there.
Maze
You can
is
connect it directly with your Figma prototype, and then you can validate quickly, right? So one way of how I like to do research is like not asking them everything. You tell me first. I try to analyze it, and then I will go build something, and then I'll show it to you. I usually go with something. I give them one random prototype, and like I let them play with them.
okay.
And
And
there's
you
a heat
analyze
map.
them.
There's a heat map already installed over there, and now we are also getting an eye tracker. So now I can also track where their eyes are moving as well, right? So then you can
That's
sense
so
it.
interesting, but that's so much tech heavy, you know?
It's very tech heavy. It's very tech heavy, but like that is why like designers, this is becoming a full. That's why I'm saying there's a
Yeah.
lot of space out there which designers right now they can still learn about it. These are new technologies which we are not tapping into, right?
Yeah.
So, and that is something which we have to work towards that.
Right.
So this is spaces out there.
When I spoke about this problem, like I don't find really a solution. I talk to them and I feel like the only way we do it is that we try and test, like once the product is out, the beta version, and then you again test with them and see if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then do it again.
I
Like,
think it's the best thing, to be honest. I also believe in, by the way, I also believe in
but the
the
solutions you
conventional
gave
way, because like
that are,
you do small iterations, 1 day iteration, 2 day iteration.
yeah.
You are, and we used to do the same thing, which is like I am working on the one prototype, and like at the end of the day, I have one user interview, two user interview, and I'll give them this prototype. You explore it, you see, and then I try to analyze how they're feeling. They give me some feedback. You know
And then
what?
we
It is
keep
very good, right?
iterating based
I
on
make
that.
another iteration, and then I will do this the same updated, like iterated prototype. I would do it with another customer, and you keep doing it after for like 1 to 3 days, and then you get to that place whether you're
Yeah.
going in a good direction or not. I think that is still much more easier, and it's I would say like it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
It's very inexpensive, to be honest.
I think this is the only thing that I am aware. The things you mentioned, these are like highly tech heavy, except for the heat map thing. That is,
Yeah.
I think there are some AI tools for free. We can use it.
Yeah, they can also analyze that. Yeah, but that is also assumption. Like, AI is
But
also
the
like,
tool that you said, that these are like, first of all, fascinating, and I don't think it's most people even heard of it. Like,
yeah, I think like now, especially now for the brick products, this is
yeah,
also like it comes with the cost, right? Like if you are doing a UX of a cockpit, definitely you will do something that you cannot say just because someone is saying, okay, it is very nice, this button is very nice, or this slider is very nice, I can do it, right? You
no,
need to have scientific evidences for
yes,
that, right?
yes, true.
Because the people life is at risk, right? So that is why they have built these technologies where they can actually analyze your emotions. They can see where your eyes is going.
Yeah,
Have you actually seen everything, or you're just saying that, okay, you're just focused on that, or what is the first thing you saw? What is your 3 second test?
yeah, yeah,
What is your 5 second test? What are the
yeah.
things you which you can recall even after one day?
So, since you said that the room of making mistakes in corporate banking UX is very less, so that means they are not they will never hire freshers. That they will always hire senior people or who have at least experience in finance or have a finance background.
I think we have a concept of peering, but yes, especially at Emirates NMT, we always hire senior designers. It's there is a reason, we have a lot of reasons, first of all, but yeah, we always go for senior product designers. Why? Because we actually want it's the same thing. You
Yeah.
When you're working in an organization where there are like 5,000, 10,000 engineers, and then you are bringing one designer, they
Yeah.
don't know how to navigate or how to deal with all those designers, right? And especially they are in that one squad, so then a design manager or another peer won't be able to help you every day, every
That's
hour,
true.
every minute, right? So there's not a lot of like, so you have to be very like hands on. You need to know what are the things you have to ask, how are you going to facilitate a brainstorming session with your stakeholders. You need to know these things, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that is why we go for very senior designers. But that doesn't mean that this is not possible. We have done in the past, we have done some like with some of the designers who are actually very young,
Yeah.
but they are so talented. They're talented that we like ask them to join us, and then like we paired them with
Yeah,
senior
yeah, yeah.
designers, and now they have learned this entire domain, right? And they are like what, 26, 25. Giving them a chance to talk to stakeholders, giving them the opportunity to actually work on something so big,
Yes.
it's very good for them. But it is something which is, you won't find it commonly in corporate banking. I mean, like, yeah, in the retail, in the fintechs, you will see it. You will see it because then everyone is focused on that. They won't let you make mistake. But in the corporate banking, when we have so many products, then every designer has to play their part,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They have to play
True.
their part. So that is
Yeah.
why we try to be very careful with what type of talent we are bringing in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, you spoke about when you we spoke about UX being fairly new, and you also spoke about web design. So I think pretty much your entire journey was about design. Maybe when UX didn't exist, you had something else, but that was design. It
Yeah.
has it always been design?
Yeah, but like from the beginning, I come from a very creative family, right?
Yeah.
All my life, my father back in the days, he had his own printing agency, and he was kind of popular in this entire industry in back home, right? So I've seen design all my life. I've seen designers. I was like 5 years old, 6 years old. I've seen designers. I had a like studio full with like all the engineers, all the designers, and they were doing print making. They're doing everything, right? So
So that
I've
if
seen
that
that.
comes under art, so you're from art to graphic design to UX. Is this how your journey has been?
I would say yes. It's definitely creative side where, but it's very scientific as well. Print, especially print,
Yeah.
is very scientific. It's the creative side is only when you are designing something in computer. After that, it is very scientific,
Okay.
right? But I have seen both the sides. But at the same time, I was from the from the childhood. I've been into creative arts. Like I've done a lot of painting, sculpting. At some point, I enrolled myself
So
into
it has
fashion design
always
as well.
been creative and design and art, something like that.
Yes, yes. Oh, I've always so that is my career, and like
Yeah.
that is when I wanted to do my bachelor's, I wanted to do in bachelor's in design, but back in the days there was no bachelor's in design.
Yeah, I was privileged. Like I pursued bachelor's after so many years you
Yes,
did, so
yes,
I
yes,
got the
yes. So in
opportunity.
2000, I'm telling you, in 2007,
Yeah.
there was no bachelor's out
Yeah,
there,
there was no.
which is just focusing on the
Mm,
design. There were arts, but
yeah.
like bachelor in arts, I don't want, like at that time, it was not something which
Yeah.
we.
That was not actually relating to anything
Yes, yes, yes,
digital.
yes, yes. It was not digital. It was a
Yeah.
conventional art, right?
Yeah.
Whether you want to read about philosophy,
Mm,
like you have to evaluate, like oil painting, or you
that's
have to
right.
do this masters. That is something which I don't. I've even today I don't feel that. I am more into a digital person.
Mm,
I got lucky. I had access to computers all my life. So I was very much into computers. So I chose the second best thing which I knew at that time
mm.
was computers. I did a software
Okay.
engineering, right?
Yes.
And while I was doing software engineering, my
Mm,
fifth semester, I got to know about HCI, human computer
mm,
interaction. That is one course. So that was a turning point for me because all of my life I have been doing designing. Now I'm doing coding.
mm,
And then that is one course which tells you how you can make an interface more beautiful.
mm.
How can you make an interface more useful for your customers
That's right.
or humans, right?
Mm.
So that was the course, and I was like, okay, now I want to do this. Whatever
Yes.
this course is, they're telling it. And also at that point, because I was coming from a business family,
Mm,
I was very cunning in that if there's a batch of 300 people, 400
mm,
people, and everyone is becoming an engineer and
mm,
everyone is doing coding,
mm.
then definitely there will be like no one is doing designing. So
Yeah.
then I have less competition.
But
First
now
of
it's
all,
like super saturated
now
market.
super saturated, but still, if you compare it with
Yes.
engineers,
Yes, yes.
we're
I agree.
still not there, and there is so much projects, so much work out there, right? So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
still not threatened by that,
Hmm.
especially in this region.
Yeah.
um, I feel like yes, Pakistan, India,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
market is getting saturated. Same thing is with UK, because we most of the work in Pakistan and also in
Hmm.
India, I have a lot
Yeah.
of friends. We have a lot of ODCs,
Yeah.
so most of the work which we are doing it for those offshores, like for Intel, for
Hmm.
Apple, for
Hmm.
like for Spotify, for Airbnb. So we are doing a lot of work for them. So that is why the
Hmm.
awareness is already there,
Mm-mm.
maturity is already over there
Yes.
versus what we have it
Yes.
right now
Yes.
in
We spoke
UAE.
about it
But
about the
now we are
maturity.
going to
Hmm.
have more and more UAE products. Now you will see, but still I still think that we are still very early. It's
Hmm.
still very early. You have like 2025 onward, you will see a lot of new products coming
In Dubai.
in Dubai, in Abu
Yes.
Dhabi, overall in this entire region,
Hmm.
and that will give you a good opportunity to actually make your name.
It's like
Like
a
it's for
golden
everyone.
period for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Whoever is listening to me, I wanna invite them. Come to Dubai. This is the high time for designers, especially. We still have
Come
a
and
lot
grab
of.
the opportunity.
Yes, 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 yes.
So,
Yeah.
you spoke so many times about Emirates NBD. So, throughout your journey, like, how was that? Like, when did you actually switch to UX? I mean, after doing the course, did you get a job immediately, and that is how the transition happened?
I have been doing designing, as I said earlier as well. While I was doing my software engineering, I
Hmm.
was also doing some side gigs on conventional art, like
Yeah.
conventional art. If anyone is like, if you want to do a research on it, Pakistan Monument, it's
Mm.
a very huge monument in
Yeah,
Islamabad. I
yeah.
was the assistant designer on that.
Okay.
It's a very conventional type of project where like you are doing sculpting with clay sculpting
Mm-mm.
and whatnot, right? So like that was the career progression I had. But like yeah, we all have been doing like UI.
Mm.
UI, I won't say
Throughout.
UX. I
Mm-mm.
won't say UX.
Yes.
UX, where like we got a lot of inspiration from Google, how Google and how
Mm.
Facebook started coming up with the new interfaces.
Yeah.
Not sure if you know, if you can't recall it. Facebook used to had
No,
a
I've.
wall.
No, I don't
You used to
remember.
have your own wall where you can post things and other people can come on your wall and they can like or comment or share, right? So you have
This
to
was the
have
early prototype, I think.
earlier
Long back.
Facebook, that was the
Earlier
version,
Facebook.
earlier
No, I
Facebook,
am not
right?
even aware of
And
this.
then how Facebook started like grooming and they started changing things, and then they became of this concept of news feed where everyone
Hmm.
can see everything and all
Yeah.
that, right? And that was totally different. And then the things, small things like this, then Gmail changed themselves, then Drive came into existing, and all of these platforms, they really helped us a lot
Hmm.
to understand what's happening out there.
Yeah.
And then I also got lucky, I got chance to work with some big products as a consultant.
Right.
like Adidas. I worked with AutoCAD. So then I got lucky that I started working with these things where I not directly, but I indirectly I was working with some design managers, some like VPs who were very insightful. They really helped me a lot learning about the
Right.
UI UX. What is the actual meaning? What are the Nielsen Norman like heuristics? So I
Hmm.
studied about it, and then I like, but I was passionate about it, and this is
Yeah.
something which I tell it to everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to be passionate about it. Like, this is my
Then
message
then
to
it's
every designers.
possible.
You take responsibility of your career, your knowledge, and then be like open for collaboration, open for like, you have to be like like be
Say
flexible.
yes to
Yeah,
everything that
like
is coming
you
on your
have to be
way.
slightly adaptive. I am even right now till this date, I am the first person when there is a new AI tool, I subscribe it with my own money, I explore it
You get
till
your
this date.
hands dirty
I
and
do
do
like
the.
I use like I use Mid Journey for I use Dolly. I have explored all of these. I'm passionate about it, and that is what I tell it to designers. Again, I'm not a best example. There are better designers out there, but I say, okay, be passionate. Like, have this curiosity, because if you're not curious anymore, then your work will start getting
That's the
stale.
only way to grow, actually.
Yes, yes, you'll
How
start
can
getting
you?
stale. Then
Yeah.
every project will have the same flavor, which you don't want to have it, because every project needs something different.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
then if you're not learning, you're not adaptive, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, then practically after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you cannot stay in design. Design is very competitive field,
Yes,
by the
yes,
way.
true.
If you want to make your name in design industry, you have to be very like, have to be on like on hands on. You have to be ready, you have to read about it, you have to be open about new things. You cannot say that, okay, Figma is my life. I can tell you right now, I started my career with Adobe Photoshop, right? Photoshop 5, Corel Draw, 8. These are the tools which I've used, which no one uses right now. If that version of Danish
Right.
like, got stuck with that like that Adobe Photoshop and that Corel Draw, which no one uses right now, I was like, I cannot imagine my life. Whatever interfaces I have to make, it has to be very minimal, very simple, intuitive.
Yeah.
That is my philosophy, right? Whatever tool I'm using, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But in order to get to that level,
Be adaptable.
you have to be adaptable, you have to be open about what's happening.
You have to keep updating
You have
yourself.
to keep updating yourself, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, so it is high time for designers.
Yes.
uh, and we cannot say that, okay, the work is done. There are so many other products. Every products, when we are launching new app which is making another problem for other type of users, right?
Yes.
And if you find your niche, you can still come up with a better option.
That's incredible. You had an amazing journey, and whatever
Thank
you
you.
shared is incredible.
Thank you, really appreciate
So
it.
we're just gonna quickly wrap it up. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and so many
Thank
people
you.
and designers are gonna get a lot of
Thank you
value
for
out of
having
this.
me.
Thank you so much.